Fantastic. We are now recording once again. Everyone, thank you so much to those of us who are joining us live for this pre-sale launch of Silver Palm. This is a brand new opportunity on the west side of Ambergris Caye that I am so excited to bring to the market and share with you. Now, I think this opportunity comes at an incredible time in the marketplace. I'm going to actually share one screen with you here before we formally jump right in. But this is a map of Ambergris Caye. And the reason that I think this opportunity is coming in at a fantastic time is because of those of you probably watching Ambergris Caye or the Caribbean generally, you've been hearing about sargassum. Sargassum is essentially like a seaweed material that has been affecting the entire Caribbean and coming on the east side shores over here. There are certain breaks within the channel, within the reef over here where that sargassum is coming to shore. Once it comes to shore, it starts to decompose and has a bit of a smell. And so what we're seeing is this big shift of folks who are once looking on the east side now going to the west side of Ambergris Caye. Now, the reality, though, is that the west side has been the least developed side of the island. When Ambergris Caye started, and really started as a fishing village, it started here within San Pedro town. And there's very quick access to the reef here. You can see how close the reef is to the town's fishing village. Of course, it made sense to be within close proximity to the reef. And the town has grown north and south since then. Now, the transgression of growth on the west side really started about 15 to 18 years ago as the developer of Secret Beach started to promote the west side of the island. For a long time, though, there was no road access here. When this developer was showing their Secret Beach lots, they'd have to hop in a boat, come out here to the dock, and then walk people through. They only started bringing the road there about 10 years ago, and even certain areas right now of Secret Beach still don't have road access. But the west side of the island at this point is completely off grid. So as we were seeing the growth of the island, it's been going north and south. We are still seeing an incredible growth going on the northward side in the Newtown area right over here. And that's a conversation for another session that I can do all about Newtown, but we are continuing to see that growth north, but we are continuing to see a lot of people who are interested specifically on the west side. To circle back to what I was saying, because there's no sargassum on the west side. But the reality is if you're looking for waterfront property on the west side, you may be in sticker shock of what some of the real estate prices are going for. So I just pulled a couple of example listings to show you. This is one with Keller Williams. This is at Secret Beach. There is road access over here. And remember, Secret Beach is completely off grid. So you'd be on your own water, your own electricity. And here, this lot, just the lot with nothing built on it, is going for $725,000. Now let's look at another one. This is also within the Secret Beach area. This is a 75 by about 150, and this is going for close to $1 million. So if you are someone who is coming in, you really like the waters. I mean, this is really stunning. Look at the pictures here in the waters. You can see why people would be gravitating towards the west side of Ambergris Caye, but we're seeing more and more people are finding it unattainable just simply because of the price tags. Now, that's why I think this opportunity is coming in at exactly the right time, because this is a brand new master planned community on the west side where the developer is putting a tremendous amount of work into world-class infrastructure. Something that I have seen here in my last 13 years of being in real estate in Belize is that you do have a lot of developers that are coming in quickly. They're going to come in, chop up land, sell off land as is, and move on. And essentially, that's how Secret Beach started. That developer came in, subdivided the area, sold off the parcels. Like I said, some roads are still not in, lots weren't cleared, lots weren't filled. And it became essentially a bit, I'd say a bit of a free for all, but of course it gives you that sort of flexibility to do what you want on your lot, but there's just no real understanding of what that area is becoming. And so when the developer was looking at what to do with this land for Silver Palms, what he realized is there was a really incredible opportunity to take this 237 acres, if you can follow my screen right over here, to take this 237 acres and do it right. We can see a lot of mistakes that other developers have done, but why not do it right the first time and right out of the gate so that we're not struggling with issues down the line? So This island, Silver Palm Island, is 237 acres. It's about 4 miles north of that Secret Beach area. So the water that I was just showing you, the listings that are going for $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 today on the waterfront, today at Silver Palm is going for substantially less than that. And it's that same beautiful prime water, beautiful turquoise, shallow, crystal clear water, prime fishing right over here that we're seeing within Silver Palm. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us live. If you're listening to the YouTube version of this and you want to be joining us live for the next sessions, just make sure you're emailing us. I'll put the email in the description below so that you get the invitations. We always send out our email invitations to folks first to have them join us live and be able to ask questions. So my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the broker owner of Luna Realty Belize. I'm originally from New York and made my way down here in 2012 it was, to work with a real estate developer. I had never been to Belize, and quite honestly, I had no idea where Belize was on the map. I put Belize into Google, saw some really beautiful pictures of the Caribbean palm trees. I had no real obligations at home at that point in the States, so I hopped on a plane and I stepped foot on Ambergris Caye for the first time in 2012. And I remember there was a big sign there that said, "Welcome home." It's actually still there today with traffic. If you fly over to the island, that big sign that says, "Welcome home," people greeting you, welcoming you to the island. And that characteristic, the charm, the welcoming people has absolutely not gone anywhere. That is still here. And I think that's a big reason why people continue to come to Ambergris Caye and enjoy coming back. It really has become a second home for many people. We get a lot of repeat visitors here, whereas maybe they would just go visit Punta Cana once or go visit Tulum once. Here, there's a really strong community. And personally, that's the reason why I ended up staying here. So 2012, I came to Belize, specifically here to Ambergris Caye. I was working with a real estate developer here on the island. They're actually multinational, so based all throughout the region, but this was my home base here for about 10 years. I left the real estate company, the developer, and started my own real estate company end of 2022, really jumping into it in 2023. And what I found, and the reason I started the real estate company is because I saw so many developers that wanted to do something in Belize, but didn't necessarily know how to get to that next level. And this developer, though, I will say they are based here in Belize. It's a Belize-based group. They have a tremendous amount of experience in infrastructure and have the resources and the ability to do all the infrastructure work. In fact, that's what many of their backgrounds are. But this was one that to me was really a no-brainer when they began talking to me about it a couple of years ago. So it has taken a couple of years to get to the point that it is today. But again, perfect timing, especially as we are seeing more and more interest in the west side of the island. But I know when I came here in 2012, real estate prices were dramatically different than what they are today, significantly less. And, you know, they always say hindsight is 2020. I try not to think about what they were in 2020 and 2012, but just thinking about what they're going to be in the future. And personally, I know for my family, our investment strategy is land bank and hold on to land because we see it just continues to get more and more expensive, especially waterfront property. Waterfront property is an absolute premium. As we saw with those Secret Beach lots, you know, 6-7 years ago, you could have gotten those for about $200,000 to $300,000. There wasn't road access at that point. The road has only come in fairly recently, but now look at the price tag that we saw before: $725,000, $900,000, almost $1 million for some of those basic parcels of land. So anyway, if you're one of those people like me where you just wish you might have done it a little bit sooner, then this is going to be a great session for you because I foresee Silver Palm really being one of those properties that's done well, done right, and going to have an incredible appreciation over time. So just as a quick overview, many of you probably know where Belize is on the map, but like I mentioned, the very first time I came down to Belize, I had no idea where I was going. I saw pretty pictures on Google and landed in exactly the area that the pictures looked like. So Belize is a small country about the size of Massachusetts. English is the official language here, which I know is a big reason that investors, second homeowners, folks who are looking to live here in Belize ultimately land here in the country. As I mentioned, I work with a real estate developer for 10 years, and they were based all throughout the region over here. And so we were going to a lot of Spanish-speaking countries. And ultimately, what I found just generally is that Belize is a great stepping stone for folks who are looking to be international, who are looking to be at the Caribbean, who are still looking for affordable opportunities. You can find them here. Places like Costa Rica, I have found, which we did do work in previously, but have been tapped out, I would say, of the tourism market. The tourism market is mature there, it's strong, and as a result, prices are high. Belize, it's still on that upward curve. It's not as developed as places like Costa Rica or Panama. So there is still opportunity for appreciation in properties. And that is what we are continuing to see time and time again. So we talked about English being the official language. We are very close to North America. We're only about 2 hours away from Miami, 2 hours away from Houston. More direct flights are coming here to the country. They just announced a direct with Montreal, from Montreal to Belize City. And then also on Spirit, that's going to be a new airlines coming down from Fort Lauderdale to Belize. I saw introductory prices of like $87. I don't think it's per person one way, of course, but really killer deals if you're able to get in when they do their initial launch here end of this year. And then, of course, the currency conversion, we are flat 2 Belize dollars to $1 US. However, I will make a note that most real estate prices that you see in Belize are going to be in US dollar. So don't go cutting them in half. They typically are going to be in US dollars. In addition to that, there's a strong banking system here. One of the big advantages that people like, though, is that there's 0% capital gains tax. So this is really important for those of you who are thinking about buy and hold, buy the land, let it appreciate, sell it at a later date, and you have a 0% capital gains tax here in Belize. And then also, coming between the finance and realty side of it is that there's really low property tax here in Belize. So if, again, you're thinking about that buy and hold, or maybe you're just not sure what you want to do, but you know that you want to pick up property while it's still affordable, the property tax is fairly low. So we're estimating a couple $100 US per parcel at Silver Palm, and that's per year for the parcel. It doesn't matter if anything is constructed on it or not, but very affordable to just hold on to. And then, of course, we're seeing a growing economy. This is something I think that's really important. It comes back to what I was saying too, comparing Belize to Costa Rica, is they're completely different right now because this economy here is still growing. We're just starting to see the hotel brands come in. So Hilton, for example, Marriott, there's another Marriott under construction here. On Ambergris Caye, there's a Margaritaville. But seeing more of these brands is going to help boost up the economy as well. I know what a lot of people like about Belize is the charm that we don't have all those big chain restaurants. I don't think we'll really see that for a long time here. There's a lot of strong roots to the culture, the local food. People really like supporting the locals here. And I think that's something that, as long as you continue to support the locals as well, that we'll continue to see more folks growing. But here's the island of Ambergris Caye. It's about 27 miles long, with San Pedro town right over here, if you can follow my cursor, being right here. And this is where I was mentioning before, the island really started in the 50s as a fishing village and has since grown in the north and the south direction. The northward direction is where we're seeing is that path of progress. Newtown, if you can follow my cursor right over here, is about mile 8 to 10 north of the bridge. And this is where we're seeing an incredible growth already, where their electricity has been brought out to these local subdivisions out here. Land has been given out to locals as well to help build homes for their families, which is really, really exciting. Land has also been allocated for a future hospital, a school. There's a police station over here. So as San Pedro continues to get busier and busier, and as there continues to be less land for locals and people to be building and living on, it makes sense that the trajectory continues to go where there is land. So Silver Palm properties, if you can follow my cursor right over here, 237 acres. On the east side, you have the Cayo Francis Lagoon, and this is one of the best lagoons for fishing. It's also a very popular breeding area for lobster, shrimp, a whole bunch of fish over here. When we went up just a couple of weeks ago, we saw tons of fish, bonefish as well. If you're somebody who is into fishing, incredible fly fishing in this area. And there's the flats right over here by Bracelet Caye are pristine and perfect for folks who are looking to go fishing. But then Secret Beach right over here. So we're about 4 miles north of the Secret Beach area. So Ambergris Caye is continuing to grow. It continues to be the #1 tourism destination for the entire country. The reason for that is primarily because of this reef. So if you can see my cursor right over here, this is the Belize Barrier Reef, and you can be from land into the water on the reef within 5 minutes. And this is something that is so unique and continues to be a reason why Ambergris is so popular. Yes, of course, there's the fishing and diving and snorkeling, but it's also a very, very family-friendly destination where you can hop in your golf cart. You're encouraged to go check out different restaurants, meet different people, drive all the way north, drive all the way south. This is not necessarily an all-inclusive destination here in the Caribbean. And we don't intend for Belize to be that because it is such a warm and welcoming people. So continuing on over here, we're going to talk about a lot of this, but just, of course, if you haven't been here before, yes, these turquoise waters are what you're going to see when you're looking out from Silver Palm or just around the island generally. And Ambergris Caye continues to be the most popular tourism destination for the entire country. So we were talking about Secret Beach before. Secret Beach is this top picture on the right-hand side. And Secret Beach, as I was mentioning, really started about 15 to 18 years ago. There was a development group that owns, and they still own a majority of the land there, but they own that land and they were subdividing the parcels into smaller parcels and creating some subdivisions. Now, they didn't put in the infrastructure. They didn't necessarily put in all of the things that you may assume a developer would put in. But when the developers of Silver Palm were looking at Secret Beach and other subdivisions of models of what have been done, there were so many ways that they saw they could really make this property, the Silver Palm property, unique in the marketplace and just a better environment for those who are going to be purchasing, living and investing there. So we've seen a tremendous amount of growth specifically within that Secret Beach area. It's certainly become a tourism destination for folks who are coming down, but we really see that now is the time to be investing in Belize. I've worked all throughout Central America. I have my residency in Panama, spent a lot of time there in that country. I've witnessed Costa Rica's growth over the last 15 years. And this is the place that if you're looking to own land, I would highly recommend to be here in Belize. We've seen examples in Cancun, we've seen examples in Cabo, we've seen examples in Tulum, and now is the time to really be here in Belize. So let's talk a little bit more about Silver Palm. I know that's why many of you are on this call today. All of you are on this call. And again, I appreciate you for joining us on your Saturday over here. But this island, like I mentioned, 237 acres. And we're going to be talking about the first phase 1A and 1C, which is comprised of about 143 lots. And if you can follow my cursor, it's in about this area right over here. Cayo Francis Lagoon right here. And then you have the beautiful Chetumal Bay, which is the same waters that you have at Secret Beach. And then Newtown, that area that I mentioned is really growing, is just directly across the Cayo Francis Lagoon. So I'm going to show you a little bit more. Here we go. This makes it a little bit easier to see. So phase 1A and phase 1C, right over here, there's a community pontoon that'll take you back and forth between the Newtown area. There's already a bulkhead over there and road access to be able to get to this point. And we've already started the infrastructure work here at Silver Palm. So it's been really exciting to see, but a few things that are unique about this property is the size of the lots. Many of the lots are about 1/4 of an acre in size, whereas standard lots in areas like Secret Beach or other subdivisions are typically about 5,000 to 5,500 square feet. So about 1/8 or 1/10 of an acre is typically what you're seeing for standard subdivisions across Ambergris Caye right now. In addition to that, you have the incredible views. So you have two sides of water, which is really neat about this property, the Cayo Francis Lagoon and the Chetumal Bay. And then because of the location here, and it took about 2 years to work directly with the environmental department here in Belize on what was going to be approved and accepted for this property and what we had to make sure we were doing in order to get all of the clearances and approvals. So the developer has come in, is very eco-conscious, understands the island, understands the community that we're in. Within Belize, there's a 66-foot reserve or a setback from the water line in. So the developer is not touching any of that 66 feet. That is going to be left as is to help preserve the environment. In addition to that, the developer is putting in world-class infrastructure and amenities. And I'm going to pull up my map here a little bit more just to go through it a little bit more with you. But again, here's San Pedro town. We're working up north. And then right over here on the left-hand side where you see the green and the red, this is the Silver Palm Island. And the developer, again, isn't just chopping up parcels and calling it a day. He's really creating a self-contained island to be able to have people live there full-time if they want, or have it be not really what you want it to be. So phase 1A and C is in this area over here, if you can follow my cursor. But what he's done is allocated green spaces. You can see reserves where the land is not going to be touched. He has community parks allocated, swimming areas. They've gotten approval as well for canals, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides from now. but he's put a lot of thought and effort into really creating this a place that people want to be. In addition to that, there's space up here that is reserved. Let me just show you here for a sports complex, hurricane shelter. There's also a space allocated for a police station, for a medical complex, like a hospital. So there's been a lot of thought that has gone into this, but you see the green spaces, you see the community areas, which was really integral as he was designing this property. All right, so with that being said, though, I am going to go back to this slide over here to help explain it a little bit more. So again, that community pontoon will be running 24 hours a day. It's about 5 minutes to go from Newtown across Kyle Francis Lagoon over here to the Silver Palm property. Now, I know that this is not necessarily like a sexy topic, but infrastructure, it is one that I want to address. I've been a resident here 13 years. We have seen a lot of infrastructure challenges on the island, especially as more people are coming to the island. Now, there's a few things that this developer is doing specifically with this property that is completely unheard of in Belize, or at least here on Ambergris Caye. Number one is he is going to be building proper roads. They've already removed, at least within phase one, the silt going down to the bedrock to be able to properly build roads on top of that. In addition to that, they are clearing and filling all of the lots and doing proper drainage, because something that is very common here is people will buy individual standalone lots. They'll fill their lot to exactly what they need so that there's no flooding. And then their neighbor is the one who's going to be suffering or struggling as the water moved from that lot over to their lot. Now, the developer is doing all proper filling and drainage so that there's not going to be that issue with any of the lots. In addition to that, something that they'll be doing is putting in fire hydrants. So you think about like that standard North American community, right? We have fire hydrants in North America. If you come to Belize, come to Ambergris Caye, please tell me where you see a fire hydrant. I haven't seen any, but they're going to have fire hydrants here. In addition to that, underground utilities, underground lines, for example. So you don't necessarily have all those wires. They'll put in underground conduits for fiber optics internet and electricity when electricity is brought out there. So a lot of thought has gone into this property, and they have already started the infrastructure work. As I mentioned, they've been planning this for over 2 years with the Department of the Environment, checking off on all the boxes and making sure that they're doing things that are sustainable for the environment around. Something else that I want to mention when it comes to infrastructure is going to be the wastewater system and the septic. So something that is very common here is once you go north of the bridge, you're on your own water system. And let me actually bring my map back up for a minute over here. So when you go north of the bridge, is in this general area over here. But once you go north of the bridge, then you're on your own water system. So people have their own rainwater catchment systems. They have their own septic. But what they're going to be doing at Silver Palm is a central wastewater management system. They're actually going to have 4 different systems in place to accommodate the entire island, but you are not allowed actually to have your own septic tank. So it'll be a community sewage. In addition to that, they are going to have gray water recycling for the water. And then the water there'll be 2 different systems. One will be potable, one will be grain water. However, I'm sure many of you aren't going to be wanting to be drinking it, but it is absolutely possible to be doing that. And by having a central wastewater management, it helps to eliminate any potential problems that people may have by having their own septic tank. So again, a lot of thought has gone into this. A lot of infrastructure has already been started. So it's really quite exciting to see. So again, just highlighting Silver Palm, this is all that Newtown area that I was mentioning to you before. 2 advantages, or one big advantage to this property is that there are 2 quarries right over here. So it is able, it is possible to get fill and whatnot. However, these developers have the access to get all of the equipment that they need and have already been doing that. So phase 1 pre-sales have started. You can see here the ones that are highlighted or marked as sold have already been spoken for. But within phase 1, there are 3 different lot types. There's waterfront, there's canal front, and then there's inland lots. And the inland lots, you can see example 76, 75, 74, they don't have water frontage. The canal front, you can see that blue line over here. Those are the canals, which have been approved. And then there's also the waterfront lots. So the waterfront lots are either overlooking Kyle Francis Lagoon or going to be looking over the Chettenwell Bay on the west side. So they start at 100,000, work up to 175. And the developer is currently offering 70% financing for introductory financing rates. So I think that is really, really attractive. It's not something that we see with a lot of developments. A lot of times they tend to be cash. So this is very attractive for folks who are looking. And if you give me just one quick moment, I will get up for you some examples of what those numbers look like so that you're able to see some examples of what the numbers would be. Alrighty here. And here we go. Okay. And you should be able to see my screen here. And I can send anybody this chart too. But this is an example. I have the 3 examples of the 3 different lots. So just for example, if you're doing one of the waterfront properties for 175, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Then your monthly payments would be about $1,600 a month. If you're doing a canal front lot at 150, your monthly payments would be about, we'll say $1,400 a month. And if you're doing one of the inland lots, your monthly payments will be less than $1,000 a month. So it's a 10-year term, 10% interest. But that is something that is being offered right now with the pre-sale opportunity. So this is within phase 1. And again, we're going to be sending this presentation out if you want it, but we'll definitely be sending out the recording too, so that you can listen to it and go through some of the lots to see what best suit what you're looking for. We also do have the lot sizes. As you can see, they're not all the same sizes, but we do have the lot sizes that we can send to you, but this pricing is good for any of those lots. So all the inlands is 100,000, all of the canal front are 125, and all of the waterfront on the east and the west side are 175. So you can start to see here the infrastructure work that is going in. As I mentioned to you, the canals are putting in the roads, taking out all that silt, getting down to the bedrock to properly be putting a road on top of it. And once all the pipes and everything is in, they're going to be doing a finishing of concrete as well. Newtown is just right across the lagoon over here. You can see the cell tower, one of the quarries over here, the other quarry over here on the north side, but we're seeing a lot more development happening within this Newtown area. So what I do want to mention to you is that, well, obviously the fishing is really good, but you have the choice right now of deciding if you want the sunrise or the sunset, or if you want to be on the Kyle Francis Lagoon side, or if you want to be on the Chetumal Bay side. So how this works is if you're interested in one of these parcels, chat with our team member. You'll be able to decide which one is right for you. You put 10% deposit into escrow. Then if you want to do a title check, you can do that. But then typically it's about a 45 to 60 days after doing the escrow, then you're going to close on the property. So if you're financing, then you would send another 20% to escrow to close. If you're not doing financing, then you would send the balance of the cash payment to get to close. So once the property is paid for in full, the closing company will prepare the title for you. So it's very standard how it works here in Belize. I do have a full breakdown of the closing process in Belize if this is new to you, where we break down all of the steps so you can understand what that would look like. But if anybody's also interested in residency, I know this is a topic that we get quite a bit. There are different avenues to getting your residency. There's the big one, which is the permanent residency, where if you're planning to live here, you would typically be in country for 1 year, less. You can leave up to 2 weeks out of that first year. And after you fulfill those requirements, then you can apply for your permanent residency. After having permanent residency, you can apply for after having permanent residency for 5 years, you can apply for your citizenship. There are other programs, the Retire and Invest, if you want to start a business down here, but still retire. It is possible to do that under the new Qualified Retired Persons Program, but a variety. I'm not going to get into all of them. I could talk about this for an hour or so. So I do have a pamphlet of information if anybody wants more information about residency. And so ultimately, the choice is yours. What I really like about this developer is the flexibility for folks to do what makes the most sense for them on this property, while they are going to have it prepared for you, ready to go, ready to build. Should you decide, you don't have to do that. There's no build timeline requirement. There's going to be a few select approved contractors that the developer will stand behind. However, you're not required to use those contractors. You do have the ability to use who you want to build your home should you decide building a home is something you're interested in. But there's a variety of ways to go about this. And I like that flexibility when it comes to the development here. So we are going to open the floor for questions right now. Do feel free to put your questions in. Okay, good. I'm just making sure I was sharing the right screen and I wasn't still on the chart because that wouldn't get you too far. Okay, so I'm going to answer questions here. If you have questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A section. I also have an FAQ guide that I'm more than happy to send your way. You probably have questions you didn't even realize you had. You can just email us there, info@lunarealtybelize.com, and I'll send you over the FAQ guide to look through that as well. All right, so Coney is saying, how much do we have to put down? Great question, Coney. So it's going to depend entirely on the lot type that you select. And then from there, again, there is the 70% financing over a 10-year period. So you are able to take advantage of that seller financing. Don is saying, what is the typical price per square foot of building on this property? Oh, that depends entirely on what it is that you build. Generally here on the island, average price per square foot is about a 180 to 210, 220 a square foot, depending on what you're looking for. That's for a nice North American quality build. If you're looking for something that's a little bit higher end, more luxurious, then you're going to be looking closer to the 300 US a square foot build. Like I mentioned, we'll have a few different contractors that the developer has vetted that you're able to use. You're not required to use them. You're also not required to use any specific floor plans or anything along those lines. You are able to build what you want. There's the only condition is you can't do any of the corrugated tin homes, but you do have the flexibility to build what you want. Oh, great question, Hector. Will the developer be able to see this whole process through? I know there have been other developments that have started and run out of money. Really great question. And that is something that I always ask myself too, as I'm getting involved in new developments. I met this developer about 3 years ago, and there were a few things that really stuck with me and struck out or that stuck out to me with this developer that I just haven't seen in other ones, which is why we decided to align ourselves with him. Number one is they're based here in Belize. Their businesses are here in Belize. They've done business here in Belize. A lot of the projects that these developers have done have involved infrastructure. So when we talk about that infrastructure component, that is so critical because they've already done it and done it well here in Belize. And also this developer is doing it in phases. So one of the biggest struggles that I see developers do is they get so excited about the property that they want to do everything at once. And unfortunately, what that means is they need all of that money to get it done at once. Now, this developer is spreading this property into different phases in order to accomplish getting done what he needs to get done in order to move to the next phase and build it out over time. I know they want to see this property get completed sooner rather than later. I'm going to guess it's going to be about a 10-year build period within the different phases. But starting with phases helps to allocate funds for them to see what costs are as they're continuing in. Really, really good question, Hector. And then Lucy's saying, are you able to share the spreadsheet that you showed with the costs? Yes, I certainly can. So I don't know, Lucy, if there was a certain lot that you wanted to look at, but here's for the example for the inland lot. So it's 30% down. And then, so for this example, it's $100,000, 30% down. And then the loan would be for $70,000. Interest rate is 10%. It's over a 10-year period and it's not interest only. So your monthly payment is going to be $925.06. And then I broke it down even a little bit further here as well. So out of that 30%, you put 10% down. That's your earnest deposit. It goes into an escrow account. And then when you're closing, you'll send this balance, that 20% balance, to the escrow account, to the closing company right before closing. That's a total of the $30,000 that upon closing will be sent over to the seller. Then you'd be financing the balance of $70,000. If anybody wants this, I do have the 3 different lot types there. Just email me, info@lunarealtybelize.com, and I can send this over to you, but it just breaks down a little bit more too. It's a nice schedule to see breakdown of payments. And obviously we would change the date based on your purchase date, but you're able to see what the principal is, what the interest is, and then what your balance would be. And then here's the example for the canal lot at $150,000. Amount down is $30,000, so it's $45,000 in total, broken down again. And then your loan amount would be for $105,000. And sorry, it shouldn't say 60th month there. It should be 120th month. And then here we are again for the waterfront lot at 175. Down would be a little over 52,000. And then your loan amount would be for 122. I hope that helps there, Lucy. And again, just email me and I can send that over, that I can send that information over to you. Are you able to show? So Ron is saying, will there be an HOA? Yes, but a very minimal HOA. You know, the big thing is the developer is going to be putting in the infrastructure, but then of course to be maintaining roads and all of that. And I can give you the breakdown too of what will be included in that, Ron. Just feel free to email over, but I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, and I don't want to give you wrong numbers, but we do have that. And I just remember thinking that it was very minimal for everything that it would be covering. Great question. And then Don saying, who's the developer that you're referring to? So it's a Belize-based group. There's a few folks that are involved. I'm able to, if you email me, Don, we can just send over bios and all of that, so you can see that. Tiffany's saying, is there the monthly fee? Yes, the HOA. And just note though that the HOA is not going to be started until the infrastructure is complete. So just wanted to make that note as well, is that, you know, the moment that you start owning the lot there won't be the fee. I'm going to say that it's going to take about, for the first phase here, it's going to take about a year for the infrastructure within phase one to get completed, for the lots to get filled and do all of that. And so I would say if you're trying to build within the next like 3 to 6 months, then it's going to be a little too soon. But for anyone who's looking for over a year from now, then you'll certainly be within the time frame. Yes, I remember Hector, you and Tara were here, and I don't remember if you went up to Silver Palm. There are a few folks who have been up, but I'm glad to see that you're able to join us. Lucy said, do you have plans to have any future webinars, including a builder, so that we can get an idea of what the process is like and how much it'll cost? Yes, but do note that it's not necessarily a one size fits all, because everybody does have different ideas of what they want to build and when they want to build and how they want to build. You know, some people may want to do cinder block construction, which probably I'd recommend. That's the most time proven method of construction here on the island. Some people may want to do a wooden home, right? But I would say if you're staying within that range of 180 to 220 US a square foot, and then 300 for luxury property, you'll probably be in a good range of what it's going to be. And then also note, because the lot is already filled and has the proper drainage, you're not going to need to have your own fill put in. That's something that we see a lot of these lots here within subdivisions. They are not filled. So that can easily cost you another $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to get a lot cleared and filled, especially if it's a little bit lower lying. And then in addition to that, there was something else I was going to say and I lost my train of thought there, Lucy, but yes, I can certainly introduce you to some contractors too. There, like I mentioned, there are a couple that the developer has already pre-vetted and feels comfortable have clients talking to, so we can do that. But again, you can choose anyone that you want in order to do that. So I'm seeing some more questions about the financing. Just email me. That email address here on the screen, info@lunarealtybelize.com, would be the best email address to get to me. And then that way we can send you that financing schedule. I can send you the brochure. I can send you the site map and all of those details there. This is the first official pre-sale launch that we're doing to the public. Previously, you saw that some of the lots here have sold. A lot of those were to friends, families, not people who've been following for some time. As you can see right over here, they're sold. You can see where the desirable areas are. I'll tell you that the waterfront is always going to be the most desirable. Oh, something else that I want to mention though is the canal lots. So this is something that I was really impressed by when I was talking to the developer, is they're going to be putting in the retaining walls. It's a vinyl retaining wall to all of the canal front lots, and they're automatically going to be putting in a boat slip. So it's easier to put a boat slip in now than to try to reverse engineer it and put a boat slip in later. So maybe you don't know if you want a boat or not, that's fine, but you will have a boat slip there at your canal property. So that is another cost that is already going to be factored in, where you don't need to put that retaining wall in. I know there's another property here on Ambergris Caye where they do not put the retaining wall in for you, and then the owners are finding that it's another $20,000-$30,000 to put that retaining wall in. So these little things that they're just doing right out of the gate, the gate is huge. It's really huge and very beneficial to the owners here. All right, yeah, so I'm seeing more specific questions about what can we build, more questions about HOA. For the HOA breakdown, if you don't mind, just email me. I'll be able to, I don't want to give you the wrong information there. And I apologize. I should have had that number at the top of my head, but email us and we can get those details over to you. Hector saying, if you're on the waterfront, will you be able to build a dock on the property? So really great question. If you are considering a dock, I would recommend being on the west side of Silver Palm. The east side is backs up to Kyle Francis Lagoon, and there are very strict environmental clearances and permits with building anything within the lagoon over here. It is a protected area. So if having a dock is something that's important to you, then I would recommend being over here on the west side of the island. So that's at 32 to 44. And I'm gonna actually go to my other bigger map just to give you some more. So I would recommend being over in this area over here on the west side if having a dock is something that is important to you. But no, I would just expect if you're on the east side that you're going to be keeping it as is. Remember, you have that 66-foot reserve here. That's called Queensland in Belize. That's applicable to any waterfront property on Ambergris Caye in Belize generally. That first 66 feet of waterfront from the coast inland is considered Queensland. But that's a very, very good question there, Hector. All right, so I'm seeing questions that are just a little bit more specific. So what I would love to do is have one-on-one chats with you. Our listing agent for this property, his name is Mike. You may have heard from him already if you inquired ahead of time about this property, but we're happy to get all those details to you, schedule the one-on-ones with you, go through your goals, see if this is a property that aligns with what you're looking for. And if so, then of course, we'd love to call you an owner with us here at the Silver Palm Community. All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for joining us. There's so much more information to share, but within that FAQ guide and within the brochure, I think we get a lot of your questions answered. But again, let's schedule some time and see if this is the right property for you. All right, everyone. Once again, thank you again. Thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic Saturday out there. And we look forward to hearing from you and calling you a neighbor here in Belize at some point in the near future. Bye, everyone.